Hello and welcome to Absolute Trust Talk. I'm Kirsten Howe, your host. This is another Facebook Live version of our podcast, and I'm glad you're here today. Today, I am going to start I'm going to call it a mini series of episodes that will all be on one or another aspect of the same topic, which is the elder care journey. So, what do I mean by the elder care journey? I mean, as we get older, many of us will start to need assistance. And that will vary, and we'll talk about that. But we'll need assistance, and that turns life into a different journey than the journey that we're currently on. So that is my definition of the elder care journey: is as we get older and we're needing assistance, that is a journey that is traveled by not only the elder family member, but all the other family members. And whether they know it or not, indirectly or directly, they are impacted by this, by being on the elder care journey with their family member. When I'm talking about the elder family member today, I'm probably going to just say mom. I'm going to use that as my shorthand rather than stumbling over elder family member every time. So you'll know what I'm talking about. Not talking about my mom. I'm talking about a mom. So the elder care journey, what we find is that when we meet with families for the first time, and the family has just recently discovered or come to terms with the fact that, yes, we are now on this elder care journey because mom is starting to need more care, they don't know what to do. It's very difficult for families who are just now stepping off on this journey. There's so many questions. There's so much information that they've never thought about. They've never had to think about it. If you have never had an elderly family member go down this journey, or it's not your job, why would you think about it? It's a whole world that you've never really thought about. So it's like drinking from a fire hose, and the families oftentimes don't even know what questions to ask because there's just so much that they don't understand. So we find that in the first meeting, and sometimes that's the only meeting that we have, we talk to the families for an hour. We give them a lot of education, information, resources. We come up with a plan. They walk out after an hour and they know what to do next, and they know the next four things they're going to do, or something like that. But coming up with a plan because they now have the information they need is very, very helpful to our families. And my goal with this mini series is to share a lot of that information with a lot of people so I can help a lot more people than just the ones who can sit in my office for an hour. Having said that, I want to make sure you understand that sitting with your own attorney and talking about your individual case is very much better than listening to me talk very generally. So I encourage you to do that if you are on the elder care journey with a family member, or you are the elder on the journey. Talk to your attorney and do it as early as you can. The earlier you get good advice, the more options you have, and the better choices that you're going to make. Okay, so I'm talking about a particular aspect of the elder care journey today, and that is what I think is really the most foundational, fundamental aspect of elder care, and that is care. What are the types of care that are available? And we can't talk about care without talking about how do we pay for care. It doesn't do anybody any good for me to tell you what's out there if I don't tell you how you're going to pay for it, because elder care can be very expensive. So we're going to talk about both of those things today: types of care and who pays for it. Episode 1. When I think about elder care, I think of it as 4 phases. Now, we know that nothing is that neat and tidy in life. Elder care is actually a continuum, and it's not entirely clear when we've moved from phase 1 to phase 2 to phase 3. They're all kind of smushed together. But in order to communicate with you today, we're going to focus on it as being 4 separate, distinct phases. And we'll talk about what types of care are available in each phase and how we pay for it in each phase. Let's get started. Before I do start, though, I want to remind anybody who might have forgotten or who's never watched us before. I will answer questions when I get to the end. So if you have a question, go ahead and type it in the comment section, and I will read it at the end, and I'll try to answer it. And thank you for doing that in advance. Okay, phase 1 of the elder care journey begins when we are starting to need a little, slightly different medical care. We all need medical care from time to time, no matter what our age is. We might get a cold, we might get a flu, we might break a bone, we might have a skin cancer that needs to come off. When we're younger, our medical issues tend to be resolvable. They tend to be transitory. They tend to be, you go to the doctor or you just get better and it's gone. When we get older, our medical issues that start showing up are more in the chronic vein. Now we have medical issues like diabetes or heart condition or high blood pressure. And those are not issues that are going to be treated and go away. Those are issues that we have to manage. So we manage them by seeing our doctor, possibly physical therapist, some other medical profession. We change our diet or our exercise, and we might have medication that we're going to be taking for the rest of our lives. So we start, as we get older, to have, in phase 1, different kinds of medical issues, and it's just about managing it. So in phase 1, that's pretty easy. It's not that different from those of us who aren't on the elder care journey yet. Who pays for it is who pays for your medical care. If you're over 65, that's going to be Medicare. If you're not, it's going to be your private insurance or your checkbook. You're going to pay for your medical care out of your pocket. So that phase 1, that's pretty easy for everybody to wrap their minds around. Phase 2, our elder family member, who I'm going to call Mom, she starts to need a little more help. She maybe needs help with driving. She can't drive very well anymore, or maybe she shouldn't drive anymore. Maybe she has a hard time going out and buying groceries or getting the groceries into the house. Or maybe, I hear this a lot from my families. They come home for a visit, it's Thanksgiving or Christmas, and they find that the dining room table is covered with unopened envelopes. And they discover Mom hasn't actually paid the PG&E bill for a couple of months. So needing help with those kinds of tasks, paying the bills, staying on top of things. Mom might need a little bit of help with that. And when we're in that vein, and it could also mean, she's got a chronic health condition, she's taking medication, she needs reminders because there's some possible cognitive issues, some memory issues. Those kinds of tasks, that kind of care, that's called personal care. That's not medical care. It's personal care, and Mom needs help with it. So how do we get that for her? Well, for most families, the first go-to for that kind of personal care is family. If there's a spouse, the spouse starts to pick up a little more of the slack. If there's not a spouse, or the spouse also needs help, then it's going to be on the children. And it's not always the case, but it's very often the case that it's the daughter. But one or more of the children will have to pitch in and start helping Mom. And that's a nice choice because in the beginning, at least, it's not a whole lot of work, maybe. And also, we don't have to pay for it. That's how we tend to think of it. It doesn't cost any money. We can just do that. But what I really want to get out there, what I want you to think about and not forget, is that really that unpaid care provided by a family member, it doesn't cost money, but it's not free. What it costs is time. So that daughter is sacrificing time with her family, with her husband, with her partner, with her friends, with her exercise routine, with her career, with her book group, whatever it is, she's sacrificing time to give this unpaid care. And when we give up time, we get into a time crunch. Now, time crunches lead to stress, and stress leads to healthcare issues. So unpaid care is definitely not free. There is a cost. And I just want you to keep that in mind, because when we're in the early phases of the elder care journey, it seems like a good idea. I can just take this on. I can just do this. I can pick up the slack. It's not a big deal. But this elder care journey is a one-way path, and it doesn't get better. So it's possible that you can do it at first, but keep your mind open to the possibility that that's not always going to be true. All right, so when we have mom needing a little more care, we can have the free unpaid family members working, or we can hire professional caregivers. They come into the home and they do whatever chores need to be done. They can do the grocery shopping. They can drive mom to her doctor's appointments or to her bridge game or whatever it is. They can remind her to take her medication. So we can hire people to do that. A couple of ways we can do that. The first is we just hire somebody directly. Could be a friend or a family member or a neighbor or a lady from the church. You can hire somebody, or somebody you find on Craigslist. That's one way. Or you can call a home care agency and have them hire somebody and bring a home care worker into your home. They're both, decent options. When you're considering which one of those two to undertake, you need to look at them seriously, though. I'm going to point out that, yes, hiring someone directly might be less expensive, because all you're paying for is that person. You're not paying for all the overhead that the agency brings with it, but you're also taking on a lot of responsibility. So when you hire someone directly, they are now your employee. And so you've got to run payroll, and you've got to withhold Social Security taxes and Medicare taxes, and you've got to pay taxes to the government, and you've got to have workers' compensation coverage. So there's a whole lot that comes along with being someone's employee that you might not really like. So a lot of people don't think about that. When you hire someone directly, the other thing that you don't get that you would get with an agency is if your home care provider who you hired directly gets sick or gets injured, and they call in one day and say, I can't come to work today. Well, now you're kind of stuck because you only have the one. Whereas if you hire through an agency, you call up the agency and say, this person's not coming in today, you need to send somebody else, and they will. So, there are pluses and minuses. I'm just here to make sure that you're aware and that you think about it and you make a deliberate choice and a well-educated choice. Okay, so mom needs a little bit of help with some of these chores and tasks that she normally would have done herself. We can either have a family member do it, or we can hire somebody. If we are hiring somebody, who pays for it? Well, who pays for it is going to be mom or the family. It's going to be private money at this point. And how much does that cost? Well, I know the agencies charge somewhere in the $30 an hour range. That's my best guess, but you can certainly verify that for yourselves. All right, now that's phase 2, where mom needs a little bit of help. Now, when we move into phase 3 and mom needs significantly more help, or she needs help with very particular things, that moves us to another level of care. What I'm talking about is when we get to the point where mom needs help with what's called activities of daily living. Activities of daily living, that's an industry term. Sometimes you'll hear it shortened to ADLs, activities of daily living. And the activities of daily living are very specific. There's bathing, dressing, eating, transferring. That's, getting out of bed or getting out of a chair or getting into bed. Toileting, I think you all know what that means. Ambulating or walking or just, being able to move. And then memory. So when mom starts to need help with those particular activities, those ADLs, that is significant for a few reasons. But again, this is still personal care. It's not medical care. We don't need a doctor to help mom get dressed. This is personal care. But when we start needing help at that level, oftentimes families will decide, well, now, maybe it doesn't make sense to keep mom at home and pay for caregivers all the time because she needs a lot of help and that's starting to get expensive. And there might be other reasons why that doesn't make sense. And so the family will consider assisted living, some kind of assisted living situation for mom. And what I'm talking about when I say assisted living is a few different things. And this is one thing that I find families don't understand all that clearly, and they just don't know about. So assisted living could mean one of those big, beautiful facilities that you see around town. They look like a big apartment building. They're a whole bunch of different ones. There's Atria, there's Oakmont. Right down the street here from my office, we have the Kensington. And they're beautiful. They're big apartment building like things. They're kind of, but I think of them as kind of like a combination between an apartment building and like a college dorm. And what I mean by that is each one of the residents has their own unit, but there's a big dining room where they have their meals, and there is a common, game room or a TV room or a movie theater room or a big garden out and back. There are all these common areas where the residents can interact, and that's what you do in college, and that's what assisted living is kind of like. And these large facilities have activities for the residents. So they have game night, or they have field trips, or they have classes. They have instructors come in and teach them things. So that's one type of assisted living. You move in, you have a place, they provide all your meals, and then you work it out with the facility what other kinds of care mom needs. If mom needs someone to come and help her get dressed every day, the facility arranges for that to happen. Okay, so that's one kind of assisted living. Another kind that I find a lot of people aren't as familiar with is what we call board and care. So board and care facilities are also considered assisted living, and they are licensed by the same agency. The same department in the state of California licenses the big ones and the board and cares. Board and cares are usually 6 beds or fewer. So there will be 6 people living in a board and care facility, and they look just like a family home, and they're in a residential neighborhood. But there are 6 people living in there, and there's a team of care providers also there to take care of them. So they're providing the same level of care as we would have in the assisted living facility. Mom has a place to live, all her meals are provided, and then they work it out with the board and care facility what other kinds of help she needs. Now, how would you choose between those two? Oftentimes, the board and care facilities are a little less expensive because they're small and they don't have the same kind of overhead that the big facility has. They don't offer all the activities. They don't have field trips all the time and classes and teachers coming in. And so if that's important, then you might choose the larger, but you can oftentimes save money with the board and care facilities. Sometimes the board and care facilities, because they're smaller, the staff has only 6 residents to be responsible for. So the residents might get a little more one-on-one attention than they would in a large facility. So, and every facility is different. And if you're investigating this, you just need to look and you need to ask questions. But those are the things that I hear from my clients about what they see and what they experience, and that's what I see in the community. So I'm sharing it with you. There's one other variety of assisted living that a lot of people are confused by, and I'll explain that in a minute, but what I'm talking about is memory care. So a lot of the larger assisted living facilities will have an area in the facility that's called the memory care unit or memory care area or memory care wing, or it might be a whole floor of the facility. And memory care is for people whose cognitive decline is such that they really need to be in a protected environment. If they aren't in a place where 24 hours a day they're completely protected, someone knows what's happening with them, they might hurt themselves or they might do something that would put them in danger. So the memory care units are separate and they're closed so that the mom, if she's in memory care, she can't just walk out the front door and wander away. That happens with dementia patients, with Alzheimer's patients, and we don't want that. We want to make sure that mom's safe. So we want her in a place where she can't just walk out the front door, or she can't go and turn on the stove and leave it on, or turn on, put some weird random thing in the microwave. We don't want that. So that's what memory care facilities are for. Memory care is assisted living. And I'm going to explain that there's another level of care that memory care is not, and that's going to be important in a minute, and you'll see why. But it's important to realize that there are different kinds of assisted living, different things that we call assisted living, but they're all assisted living. And the good news about assisted living is if we get into this situation where mom is needing help with some of these activities of daily living, remember I talked about the ADLs. If that's what mom needs help for, it might open up some more resources. So who pays for assisted living? Well, the same thing that we had before when we were talking about in-home private care. Mom could pay for it, family members could pay for it, or it's possible that maybe mom has long-term care insurance, and if she needs help with ADLs, her long-term care insurance policy will start to pay. Now, the sad thing about that is the vast majority of people don't have long-term care insurance, but if mom has it, this is the time to start exploring that with the insurance company and see what you need to do to get them to pay. I did a podcast episode about long-term care insurance maybe 6 or 8 months ago with a colleague of mine. His name is Patrick Johnson. So I'm not going to talk about long-term care insurance today, but if you want to know more about it, he is a fabulous resource. You can go to our website, absolutetrustcounsel.com, and look for that podcast episode, Patrick Johnson. It's a really great episode. Okay, so I said possibly long-term care insurance can pay for assisted living. Another resource that a lot of people don't know about is there is a veterans benefit, which is called pension. That's what the VA calls it, pension. In the community, we sometimes call it aid and attendance. That is available to veterans and to veterans surviving spouses. Not all veterans. There's very strict eligibility requirements, but a lot of people are eligible for this and they don't know about it. And so I feel like I really have to spread the word. If you think you might be eligible for veterans pension, aid and attendance, you need to explore that and figure that out because it's very strict eligibility requirements, but that can help pay for assisted living, and it's a really great resource. All right, now we're into phase 4 on the elder care journey. The care needs have increased to the point where mom needs help with all kinds of things, and she really needs care 24 hours a day. And some of the care that she needs really can only be given by medical personnel. We're talking about skilled nursing. This is skilled nursing level care, and that is provided in a skilled nursing facility. Some people call them nursing homes. Skilled nursing facility. It's mom needs a lot more help than just help with one or two of these ADLs. She needs a lot of care. So a common scenario for how this comes about is mom has injured herself. Maybe she fell because of some physical or cognitive problem, and she fell and she injured herself and she ended up in the hospital. And you know very well, as I know, that hospitals don't want people staying for very long. As soon as they get you, healed up a little bit, they're going to want to discharge you. But a lot of times we aren't ready to go home at that point. And so we end up going to a rehab facility, which is skilled nursing facility. So mom goes to the hospital, she gets discharged to a skilled nursing facility. Now, as long as she's in that skilled nursing facility to be rehabilitated, in other words, to get better so that she can go home, Medicare will be paying for that. And it's very complicated how they pay and how much they pay. For some period of time, they pay for the whole thing. After a certain amount of time, they're only paying for part of it, and mom is making a copayment. But Medicare is paying for it while mom is getting better. But according to the Medicare rules, after a certain amount of time, if mom isn't ready to go home, she hasn't gotten better enough to go home, we can't call that rehabilitation anymore. Now we call it long-term care, and Medicare does not pay for long-term care. So there would come a time, and this happens very frequently for families, when Medicare says we're not paying anymore. Now you're flipping into private pay. Now mom has to pay for it, or the family has to pay for it, or they have to take mom home even though she's not well enough to come home. So how do we pay for it if mom really isn't well enough to come home and she needs to stay there? Well, private pay, mom can pay for it. Again, if she has long-term care insurance, that could pay for it. If she's eligible for that VA aid in attendance, that could help pay for it. Or she might be eligible for Medi-Cal. Medi-Cal can pay for long-term care in a skilled nursing facility. Now, I want you to notice that we've been talking now for over 25 minutes, and this is the first time I used the word Medi-Cal. And this is something that I find is surprising to a lot of my families. Medi-Cal doesn't start paying until we're in phase 4, skilled nursing. It doesn't pay for memory care. It doesn't pay for an assisted living facility. It doesn't pay for your mom to be at home and have somebody balance her checkbook. It pays for care in a skilled nursing facility. Now, I just want this to sink in because a lot of my family members have a mom with pretty advanced dementia who needs really 24-hour supervision. And to them, that sounds like, well, Medi-Cal should pay for that. Medi-Cal does not pay for that until it's a skilled nursing level of care. Okay, so we've gone through all the types of care that are available on the elder care journey, and we've talked about who pays for each type of care. And now I'm going to answer your questions. So bear with me a minute while I search through the questions. Okay. Who determines the level of care? Who determines if the level of care needed is assisted living / personal care or skilled nursing? Okay, so that's a really good question. Who determines it? Kind of. So I'm an attorney, so I'm going to say it depends. It depends on why the determination is being made. So, for example, if you think your mom needs to be in a skilled nursing facility and she can afford to pay, then she can go into the skilled nursing facility, and so she determines that she needs it, or you determine, as long as you can afford to pay. If you are calling upon either Medi-Cal or the VA benefit, if you're looking for somebody else to pay for it, then a physician is going to have to make that determination. And it's sort of like writing a prescription for medication. They just say, you need skilled nursing level care. And then the long-term care insurance policy can kick in, or Medi-Cal can kick in. So that's a good question. I'm not sure I answered it to anyone's satisfaction, but that's the answer. If a veteran has long-term care insurance, can he still apply for aid and attendance? Okay, so the veteran has a long-term care policy that could pay for his care. Can he still apply for this veteran's benefit? And the answer is yes. Of course, he has to be eligible. He has to be the right kind of veteran. So one of the eligibility requirements is you have to have served during a certain period of war, which I won't go into. I'm going to do another one of these mini series episodes just on the veterans benefit. So look for that. I'm not going to go into it now, but if he's otherwise eligible, yes, you can have both aid and attendance and have long-term care insurance helping you to pay for your care. All right, I think that's it. I don't see any other questions, so I'm going to just wrap this up and say I hope that this overview of the types of care and how we pay for it when we're on the elder care journey has been helpful. Oh, I'm sorry, I just got another question, and I'm gonna answer that real quick. Can you speak to the 3 midnight Medicare rule for skilled nursing facility coverage? 3 midnight Medicare rule. Okay, so that's a little more complicated than this discussion. There are a whole bunch of rules about when Medicare will actually pay for nursing home care on a rehab, and it's complicated. You have to be admitted to the hospital, and sometimes hospitals will treat people without admitting them. And then does Medicare apply? Maybe it doesn't. There's a whole lot of really complicated rules about when Medicare will pay for these things. I was being very general. I was making the assumption that we're in a situation where Medicare will pay for mom's rehab when I was talking about that. So I can't really answer that in this context, other than to say you need to be aware of that, because oftentimes families come up against that problem. They think mom was in the hospital, now she's going to rehab, now Medicare will pay, and it turns out that's not going to happen. But thank you for your question, Stephanie. I do appreciate it. All right, so back to my wrap up. So I hope this is helpful to you. For me, it's important to get the information organized so that I can share it. I think it's so important to share this information, and I really want it to be helpful to you. I want to thank you for being here and listening to it. And just remember, every case is different. This general overview is not going to take the place of you sitting with your attorney and figuring out what you need to do for your mom. But hopefully this will get you moving down that path. And join me for our next episode. I'll do another one of these little episodes in our mini series of the elder care journey. Thanks so much for being here, and I look forward to connecting with you next time. AbsoluteTrustCounsel.com. We are here to help you. We help clients with estate planning, estate administration, Medi-Cal planning, special needs planning. We're here, we're working. COVID is not slowing us down. So if there's anything that you need help with, go ahead, go to our website, absolutetrustcounsel.com and schedule your discovery call, and we will get you started. Thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to connecting with you next time.